Welcome back, everyone. Next up, we have Renforth Resources Inc. It trades on the OTCQB under the symbol RFHRF and on the CSE under the symbol RFR, and is engaged in developing its wholly owned 330 square kilometers Surimeau District Project, Quebec's newest polymetallic battery mineral system with several areas of mineralization, including the nickel, cobalt, copper, and zinc mineralized Victoria structure. Victoria boasts 20 kilometers of strike with surface mineralization and limited drilling, road access, and hydroelectric power. Nearby Renforth also holds Parbec, a gold deposit with an obsolete 2020 MRE, beside Canada's largest open pit gold mine, which is undergoing a model update. All right, let's welcome President and CEO Nicole Brewster, who can explain all this much better than I can. Welcome back, Nicole.
Hi, thanks so much for having me again. So, yes, I'm the president and CEO of Renforth Resources. We trade on the CSE, RFR, and the OTCQB, RFHRF. And actually, we trade on Frankfurt as well. The symbol is 9RR. So, Renforth is what I'm going to talk to you about today. First, you're duly cautioned to do your own due diligence. I am the president CEO. I'm not impartial, and any forward-looking statements are simply that. They're not guarantees. That being said, Renforth, happily, we are in the province of Quebec in Canada. So we are in the Abitibi portion of Quebec, which is fundamentally Quebec's near north. Phenomenal mining jurisdiction, very supportive government, long history of mining in the Abitibi. So we're not doing anything that has any problems in terms of mining is an accepted way of life, and it is, in fact, the economic driver for the area, arguably. So we're in a very secure location. Now, what are we in our secure location? Well, we're an area play on Malartic, or Malartic and Cadillac. These are both well-established mining camps. The Cadillac Break, which you see on this map, has been mined since the early 1900s, if not the late 1800s. It's a crustal scale feature that starts in Ontario and Kirkland Lake and goes to Val d'Or. Every couple kilometers, there are mines on the Cadillac Break, usually gold mines. However, one of the mines close to us, in fact, you'll see in a later slide due north of us, La Ronde is actually a VMS mine with which has a lot of gold in it, but it also produces copper. So the Cadillac Break is the main structure, and in fact, our Parbec gold deposit straddles the Cadillac Break. Our neighbors, not shown on the map because it would get very messy, but our neighbors are all gold mines. They're all deep gold mines, which is exciting because Parbec's very shallow, so lots of room to grow. However, the big story, literally the big story, is our Surimeau property. It's greater than 330 square kilometers. That's about 4.5 times the size of the island of Manhattan, for a different way of expressing the area. And Surimeau last saw exploration in the 1980s, but it's known to host gold, base metals, which we now call battery metals, rare earths, and in fact, lithium. These are all documented with the Quebec government. Renforth has gone and verified a lot of this, but we're just scratching the surface at Surimeau. We consolidated all these claims and all these mineralized showings about 2 years ago now. So we were the first mover, and we've got the best land position. Now, what is the big thing that has me the most excited about this property? Honestly, it's our logistics. I'm using the term logistics to cover a lot of things, but as you can see in this map, there is a highway running directly north of us. That's the northern route of the Trans-Canada Highway. And in fact, you'll see it in later slides, we have roads right across the property. We also have a power line across the property. And in fact, the installation of that power line in the 1940s was how the Lalonde and Victoria mineralized structures were discovered. That power line goes from the town of Cadillac down to the Rapid 7 hydroelectric generating station. That gives us the cheapest renewable green electricity actually in the province of Canada, already on the property. You'll also see we are beside the Canadian Malartic mine, which is Canada's largest open pit gold mine. It's a great precedent to have sitting next door, as we have surface mineralization at Victoria. So we would look in the future, this is a future looking statement, in the future, if a mine were to be built at Victoria, it would be an open pit mine. We are near the town of Malartic, the city of Val-d'Or, and not shown to the west is Rouyn-Noranda. They all host established mining communities with all the skills and the people you need to open mines. The only copper smelter in Canada is the Horn Smelter, owned by Glencore in Rouyn-Noranda. What else can I tell you? We have no significant water on the property that we would have to be cognizant of from an environmental perspective. The property is entirely uninhabited, so we're not impacting anybody's day-to-day life. And half of the property, the half we're working on, is the treaty land of the Pickering First Nation, an hour to the north. We engage with Pickering on a commercial basis when we have needs which they can fulfill. They have an impact benefit agreement in place with a nickel deposit near them. So they are an open for business First Nation, and being treaty land is actually welcome because it identifies one First Nation we have to deal with. Why is all of this important? Aside from Quebec being a phenomenal jurisdiction and secure, all of these factors lower the cost to mine in the future. They deliver economic efficiencies, which would mean that our currently large-scale, low-grade nickel polymetallic material would have a lower cutoff grade required for a future, if we get there, again, forward-looking statement, a future decision to mine. So the time is now. We can all agree, we can all read the news, and I'm not going to read the news to you, but Canada's resources we're perfectly poised to supply the battery metals required for an energy transition. We qualify under the United States Inflation Reduction Act. We have a free trade agreement in place with the United States. We also have the European Union countries, specifically Germany, looking to Canada to fulfill their needs for metals as well. And China doesn't have what they need. They own the processing, but they don't own the actual underlying resources. So Canada, Quebec, Surimeau are all very well positioned to benefit from the need for these metals, which arguably cannot be met even if everything were to come online smoothly. We are early stage. We've not even drilled 10,000 meters, so we still have work to do. However, we're doing the work, and it's working out for us. So what are we looking at here? This is the very corner of a 2012 survey flown by the Quebec government. And in fact, not all of Surimeau fits on there. You can see that the western end of Surimeau is on blank paper. That's because the survey ended. However, what you see pretty much dead center, the horizontal line that gets very red on the left-hand side, that is our Victoria mineralized structure on the center of the property. And to the north, you see Lalonde. Now, the granitic material in the center, the fuzzy stuff, that's an intrusive. There's actually a lot of low-grade gold associated with that, large intercepts, but extremely low grade. So not anything that's currently viable, nor have we explored it extensively. But clearly, you can see Victoria, you can see Lalonde, they pop nicely. Same map, same area, different projection. You can see the Cadillac break the north of the map. You can see where Canadian Malartic is, and you can see the structures we're focused on. Here we've zoomed into our own geophysics in the center of the property with the EM. That's the little white and pink boxes and circles. The EM anomaly, the EM survey we did is a roadmap to mineralization. Whenever we go to one of those points, we find sulfides on surface. We've drilled, as I said to you, less than 10,000 meters, and you'll see in another slide where we've drilled. But we've only drilled about 160 meters is our deepest pierce point. So lots of room for expansion. We call room for expansion blue sky. It's potential. We don't know what we're going to hit when we drill. It can't get worse. It can only get better, or it can stay the same. So we have seen, interestingly, I said we were large-scale, low-grade nickel, but we've seen nickel grades as high as 3.4% nickel. But we haven't followed up grade. We're really just currently focused on expanding the footprint, which for Lalonde is about 9 kilometers, and Victoria is 20 kilometers, and it can't grow because it covers the middle of the property. We stripped early on, and we've since realized we should have stripped more, but we've done enough stripping to see on the surface the shear, which is the rust-colored material in the center, as well as the ultramafic, which is mineralized and barren on either side of the shear. What we have at Surimeau is mineralization that presents itself, as you can see on this slide. The blue line is the ultramafic, which is nickel bearing, as well as cobalt platinum group elements. Then the red and the green, that's the VMS stringers, is what we consider that material. It's giving us zinc, copper, silver, and gold. We see them distinct, and then we see where they mix. We don't have an explanation for the genesis of this mineralization, for why it's there, but it's there. And we won't worry about why, to be honest, right now. I told you we thought we stripped everything when we stripped that 275 meters between drill holes. What we learned subsequently, and this stripping area is just to the left of the road you see running down the middle of the property, within the green dots. That's the 2.2 kilometers of strike we drilled at Victoria West. We thought we were drilling one mineralized horizon, standalone for Victoria. In fact, we now see three. Please excuse me, I once again have a cold. We now see 3 horizons of mineralization at Victoria. So that package has in fact increased, because that slide hasn't been redone with our latest drilling at Victoria. We went north to Lalonde. We did some stripping, and we got the shoulders of the mineralized anomaly at Lalonde. The mineralization mirrors Victoria. You can see here the relationship. To the right of the slide is the road, and then the dashed line is the power line. Victoria, where we drilled off 2.2 kilometers. Lalonde, where we drilled off about not quite a kilometer of strike, is 3 kilometers north of Victoria. And then, excuse me again, about 3 kilometers to the west of Victoria, we actually in March completed drilling the very western end of the Victoria mineralized horizon. We drilled off about 750 meters of strike there, and we intersected a lot of the graphitic shale, which gives us the VMS mineralization. Several layers of that. We don't know what to make of that yet, and we are awaiting the assay results, so stay tuned there. This next slide just talks about, again, the time is now. We're in the right place. We're at the right time. When I look at Surimeau, what do I see? I see a fairly a sustainable potential future nickel resource, as the headline says. However, I see something that could be fairly low impact. We're talking about nickel sulfide. We're not talking about matte and the multiple processing scenario, which is what's happening in Indonesia at grievous environmental cost, had Tesla removed from all the ESG lists. However, it is it's the source of nickel for the planet right now. So the cost is being paid by the environment. I think we have the opportunity to do better where we are in Quebec. We also have a government supportive of both the battery minerals, the critical minerals, as well as being a good environmental citizen. When I look at what's happening elsewhere in the world, one thing that I would like to emulate, and again, that's a forward-looking statement. We have a bunch of work to do, but I would be very happy to emulate the Talvivaara mine in Finland. The mineralization they're processing, they have a lot of it. Their resources given there, 1 billion tons of ore in 2 small open pit pods, are feeding a heap leach operation, which is actually producing battery chemistry. So it's doing the value add work in Finland, and it's not stopping at producing metals and then the chemistry. They're going right around the circle. So heap leach is a good way to produce. It's a better way to produce, arguably. They're doing it year-round north of the Arctic Circle. So while Quebec does have its fair share of winter, it would be viable to do it there. So that's the inspiration I'm shooting for, and I've got my work cut out for me to get there. But if successful, Renforth won't be a 3-cent stock. Now, we're going to have the guys back out in the field in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. There's still snow on the ground. We need the snow gone, but we need the snow gone because we're going to look at some prospecting. We're going to be prospecting for lithium, and we're going to do additional prospecting on Lalonde and Victoria. We're going to use, using satellite imagery to identify outcrop before the guys go out, as well as to identify pegmatites. These guys did this in February, because I made them and they were not happy with me. Took a day to dig through all the snow and ice because winter was pretty wintry this year on the power line clearing over 2 pegmatites. So they took a sample from one, pure pegmatite. They took a sample from another, mix of granite and pegmatite. They've gone off for assay. But we have pegmatites throughout the Decelles batholith, which is the bottom of our property. We also have next door the only documented pegmatite, spodumene-bearing pegmatite in the camp is within the margins of the batholith, which is unusual, but not unheard of. So we'll be prospecting the pegmatites, and we will also be prospecting our battery metals on surface. All of this is backed by gold. We have the Parbec gold deposit, which I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on Parbec. Suffice to say, we still have it. It's an important piece of real estate beside a very large mine in a corridor of large mines, a corridor of deep mines. Parbec is shallow. It's got high grade. It's got long widths. It also has some things we haven't followed up on yet. For example, this slide shows you off to the left in the gray stuff, which is the sediments, or which cover all of Surimeau, in fact. We have a splay into the sediments of the Cadillac break associated with coarse gold. That's unique. That's novel. And when the Cadillac break moves, things get interesting. We've done very little work on that. It needs follow-up work. We also have space within our model to do additional follow-up. And not shown on this slide is actually a mineralized horizon within the volcanics to the north. As well, we're pretty shallow. We could do deeper drilling. So we have an out-of-date resource. Subsequent to this resource, we drilled 15,000 meters. We also validated 13,000 historic meters. So those are interesting numbers, but the sum total of drilling at Parbec is not much more than 50,000 meters, which for a gold deposit with the characteristics of Parbec and the 1.8 kilometers of strike we're dealing with, that's not a lot of drilling. So there's lots of work that could be done. So why invest? It's exposure, it's leveraged exposure to a basket of battery metals, which you can do lots of reading. I actually sent around to shareholders or people on my email list yesterday Sprott's latest research on deglobalization and the demand for these metals. So the times are changing. These metals are critical, and there's not enough of them. It's that simple. Our jurisdiction is spectacular. Deglobalization is real, and jurisdictional risk, if we look at what's happening in South America, is very real as well. Previously, I established a maiden resource on a property and sold the property. As a result, we're sitting on about $2 million, give or take, of securities. We have a bit of cash in the treasury, and I have a track record of consistently doing small-scale financings to meet our needs, which we operate the company on a shoestring, boots on the ground, very, very judicious spending. The CFO and myself are paid in shares every year and a half or so, so we don't take cash out of the company. So we're aligned with shareholders. I am a large shareholder. My personal net worth is tied up in this company, and I fully intend to move Surimeau further down the field to attract a major partner who will perhaps one day make a decision to mine. And Parbec will most likely be monetized along the way in order to put those funds into the ground at Surimeau. So join us, become a shareholder if you're not. I can't solicit you. I'm not licensed. You need to do your own due diligence and talk to your own investment advisor. But if you do have any questions for me, I can answer. You can reach me at Nicole at renforthresources.com. So that's the presentation.
Great job, Nicole.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we do have some questions from our audience. Probably some of these you've addressed, but I want to make sure we get them answered. Rod Smith wants to know, what are the proven gold reserves found at Parbec?
Parbec's, well, here, we'll just put this on here, and he can see the proven reserves, and we can move on to the next question. Suffice to say, I consider this out of date because we've drilled subsequent to it.
Okay. And are there any proven gold reserves at Surimeau? Rod also wants to know.
No, we've intersected gold within the VMS, and we also have gold occurring with the granitic intrusive that we haven't looked at, but there's no reserves or resources of gold yet at Surimeau.
And Rod also wants to know, what are your current capitalization objectives for what percentage of ownership in Renforth Resources?
I'm not even sure I understand that question. However, in looking for if the question is looking for a partner, that would probably not be the capitalization of Renforth. That would be attached to the asset directly. And I don't have numbers.
Okay, no problem. Sarah wants you to discuss your PR as of April 24th concerning sampling pegmatite. Snow cover obviously was a factor, which you spoke about. So talk about the environment, the challenges there, also the infrastructure on the property.
Well, the property is entirely uninhabited. It's hunting ground. It's what we would call in Ontario Crown land, but it's not an applicable phrase in the province of Quebec. The guys followed the cut line for the power line. It's a fire break. It's multiple meters wide. The hope had been wind would have moved the snow off. It was incorrect. And in fact, we had several melt cycles. So we had snow, ice, snow, ice, snow, ice. So, they just spent the day digging and were very happy with me. So I agreed to push it to later in May. Infrastructure, there's road access, but there's nobody living there. So it's road access and the power line. That's it.
And is there any reason to believe that there are more samples were studied, and would the results be higher?
We don't have the results of those 2 samples, and there's no reason to believe there's anything else because they literally took 2 samples. Not being able to see the ground they were working on, they stopped at an arbitrary spot and started digging. So it was an exercise in trying to do something because the guys had to go up there to flag for the drill program. They had to flag the chipping. So they tried to do a little bit of prospective work, but the environment and the weather entirely prohibited it. So it'll be resumed at the end of this month, and we'll see what comes of it. It's prospecting. Nobody's done it before, so there are no answers yet. We're creating the answers, creating the value.
Lucas Ellis asks, on the Cadillac break, which majors are there and what are they producing? Also, how does that play into the value of your projects there?
The majors, if I really quickly go back to, this is not quick. Okay. The Westwood mine to the north of us is owned by IM Gold. Moving to the east, the Laurent mine, all the way around to the Cadillac Malartic mine, which is tens of kilometers, is entirely owned by Agnico Eagle Canada, Canada's largest mining company. As you leave Canadian Malartic, not shown on this map, you have, for example, the Kiena mine owned by Wesdome. You have the Globex mine, also owned by Agnico Eagle. You get towards Val-d'Or, you have El Dorado with the Sigma Lamaque complex. And that's literally the top 3 off the top of my head, top 4 off the top of my head. We have the Sayona lithium property on the other side of the Cadillac break, but the Cadillac break itself is a gold structure. And there are other people I Forgive my peers whom I am forgetting. There are lots of other mining companies in the camp.
And Mike Owen wants to know regarding Surimeau, when you consolidated the claims there, are any resources exclusively yours?
The entire Surimeau property, the 330 square kilometers, is wholly owned by Renforth. No encumbrances, no NSRs, no payments due on the basis of the fact that I staked all of the ground. So they're held as typical stake claims. The exception to that is in the very top northeast corner of the property. When it was the precursor property, I acquired some claims from a prospector who has an NSR. However, there's no mineralization associated with those claims, so it's not relevant, and it's well away from everything we're concerned about. So it's held by Renforth. There were no pre-existing resources. There was not consistent enough exploration on the property. What was last done was in the 80s by Lac Minerals, where they drilled either end of the Victoria structure, and they drilled around Lalonde. They were looking for gold. However, the power line showings at Lalonde and Victoria have been known since the 40s. They were also observed to be a high-grade moly at Lalonde. We haven't really seen that. But no consistent work because the Cadillac Break is such a productive structure. The town of Cadillac hosted one of Canada's most prolific in dollar terms gold mines. So, and the Laurent mine, it's 3.5 kilometers deep. It's the deepest single stage gold mine in single stage shaft, the Penna shaft, at 2.4 kilometers, deepest in North America. So this is gold mining country. We're doing something very unusual.
Wow. Exciting times. Jeff Smith wants to know, how does he get on the email list?
Email me, Nicole at renforthresources.com, or on my website on the renforthresources.com. If you scroll down to the bottom, if I did it right, and I think I did, there should be a link to sign up for the newsletter.
Perfect. And Adrian Cantwell asks, what are the main catalysts we should look out for in the next 1 to 2 years?
Oh, 1 to 2 years, Adrian. Well, monetization of Parbec, pushing the money into the ground at Surimeau, potential partner coming along with capital for Surimeau. Success with lithium exploration. If we have any, we will monetize that. It would largely be confined to the batholith in the south of the property, so easily separated from Victoria and Lalonde. The only danger in doing that, Adrian, is if there's a hidden VMS, we don't know where it is because it's hidden. Big if, big forward-looking statement. So we wouldn't rush to do that. But the major catalyst is literally going to be the drill bit, Adrian. It always is. It's the proof in the pudding in this business, isn't it? So that's that.
Rod Smith wants to know, how much money are you trying to raise right now, and for what percentage of ownership in Renforth?
Well, right now we're raising on a retail basis $400,000 to $500,000, and I'm not doing the math in my head. I do have a head cold, but it's a unit financing, 5-cent unit common share, and a 3-year warrant, which will exercise at 5 cents, and those shares will be issued and added to the float. There's approximately, and I know I'm wrong, but we'll say approximately 325 million shares of Renforth outstanding. So it's mathematical, however many shares are issued in this financing divided against the whole would give you the percent. It's a nominal number.
And last question for you, Nicole, from Eric Lemieux. What are the average length of intercepts with net textured sulfides from the recent 6-hole drill program? Well,
Eric, I'm going to get back to you on that, Eric. And I'm not being facile. We don't have the assays in. We have some of them, of course, as you can guess. I have asked the geologist to put a table together, just breaking out our drill holes into ultramafic versus VMS. The net textured sulfides, the visible net textured sulfides, they're small intersections, Eric. I know that. The VMS intervals are a different thing. So we don't have huge intervals of it yet, but we did in that last program see a lot more of the graphitic shales, the mudstones, which are hosting the net textured sulfides. But within that, I don't know the number, Eric. I can find it out for you, but I'll have to get the geologist to tell me.
Perfect. Well, as Rejan Pinel says in the comments, excellent presentation as usual, Nicole.
Thank you, Rejan.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us on our conference, and we look forward to hearing some future updates from you.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Appreciate everyone's time. And again, Nicole at renforthresources.com if you have further questions. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Thanks, Nicole. And thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll be right back with our next presenter.